Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum and very good morning to everyone. Okay, we start our first lecture this morning. Semua boleh nampak ke my slides?
Boleh Doktor.
Boleh ya? Okay.
Boleh.
We start our topic this morning, POCT in Hematology. Okay, Dr. Ni pun dah perkenalkan saya. Okay, we just continue ya with the lecture. Saya tak I cannot use my arrow to go to next slide. Okay, my content of topics today, we will talk about a bit introduction of the POCT, types of POCT, POCT in hematology, quality assurance in POCT, POCT accreditations, national policy and guideline for POCT, and the last one will cover the analytical performance verification. As an introduction, we go by definition first. Definition of point of care testing: clinical laboratory testing conducted close to the site of patient care, typically clinical personnel whose primary training is not in the laboratory sciences or by patient self-testing. Okay, POCT can be also done by patient himself at home. It refers to any testing performed outside the hospital laboratory, near or at the site of patients where the results influences patient management. So basically, this POCT consists of two main definition. It is a test done outside the laboratory and done by non-laboratory staff. As for the reasons why POCT used, this is actually input from journals. POCT is used widely in hospital settings where rapid turnaround time of results is necessary or where central laboratory testing is unavailable. For clinicians and allied healthcare professionals, quality results with rapid turnaround times are essential to determine prompt, effective management plans, administer immediate treatments in life-threatening condition, and meet waiting time targets in a safe and effective manner. POCT is proven powerful tool that can facilitate patient flow and turn around accurate results in a timely manner. The increasing need for timely results and improvement in healthcare service with the recent COVID-19 pandemic outbreak, POC has become critical in managing the spread of disease. Applicable diagnostic should be readily deployable, easy to use, portable, and accurate so that they fit mobile laboratories, pop-up treatment centers. Okay, now we move on to types of POCT device. It's classified according to the complexity of the device. We have low complexity, moderate complexity, and high complexity. There are criteria. In these journals, they elaborate the criteria and examples of the device. As for complexity, testing that provides qualitative and semi-quantitative results from cassettes or single-use strip or cuts. The examples are glucometer, hemoglobin meter, or PT-INR. Moderate complexity, testing that gives qualitative, semi-quantitative, or quantitative results, and have simple to moderately complex instrumentation. The examples are automated urinalysis or CD4 analyzer. High complexity is a multifaceted internal parts and all interface and produce quantitative results. The examples are blood gas analyzers and full blood count or CBC devices. This is a types of POCT device. You can find this in national policy and guidelines. We divide according to, we follow according to journal, right? Nowadays that low complexity, moderate complexity, and high complexity. As for low complexity, we can divide into without automatic reader and with automatic reader. As you can see here, the one that I highlighted is actually POCT in hematology. So hemoglobin and PT-INR fall under low complexity with automatic reader. And as for moderate complexity, for TEG, ROTEM, and CD4. High complexity is FBC. Okay, this is a list of POCT in hematology listed in journal. There are 7 listed here. Number 1, full blood count we can have 3 parts or 5 parts. The clinical utility for trauma or hematology patient. Common location, ED, hematology clinic or GP. These are the examples of device of ABC. Okay. Next, for PT-INR, clinical utility for trauma patients on warfarin or stroke and thrombolysis. And for our practice, as far as I'm concerned, so far we use in the hospital for a patient on, INR clinic lah, we call it INR clinic to monitor patient on warfarin. So the common locations are stated in the journal: ED, coronary care units, anticoagulant clinics, operating theatres, and ICU. In our practice, we use it at anticoagulant clinics, INR clinics. These are the examples of device from Roche. We have explicit site and QLab. Next, POCT is APTT, clinical utility for factor deficiency or hemostatic assessment. Common location, acute and intensive care setting. The example also from Roche also. The same device for INR, they also can have the APTT test. Next, POCT, hemoglobin. This is exclusion of anemia, location, operating theatres, clinics, GP, and obstetric. Okay, later I will show you the distribution of POCT hematology. Actually, POCT, all POCTs in our KKM hospitals and public health. Okay, the examples of hemoglobin meter, HemoQ. Next, POCT, D-dimer to exclude pulmonary embolism or TBT. Location of device, ED, primary care clinics, medical assessment units. Okay, these are the examples of device. Next, viscoelastic assay, clinical utility for trauma, obstetric, location, operating theatres, emergency department. These are the examples of device for TEM, TEG. And the last one, activated clotting time, clinical utility for the IC, monitoring heparin, location at cardiothoracic center. These are the examples of device sonoclot system. Okay, I will show you the POCT hematology available in KKM hospital. This number bar chart shows the low complexity with automatic reader. As for POCT hematology, we have hemoglobin and PT-INR here. You can see here, okay, the bar at your left hand side is to show the distribution in public health, and the right bar is for hospital. We can see here hemoglobin mainly used at the public health center, at the clinic kesihatan. Okay, and for PT-INR, the device mainly used in the hospital. Not many, but mainly in the hospital INR clinic. Next, for moderate complexity, we can see here we have ROTEM and CD4 test. Okay, the bottom bar is actually for public health. CD4 mainly used in public health. Okay, ROTEM actually we have, I think we don't have yet, but it's coming soon in our cardio center, Serdang. Next, for high complexity, we have IBC 5 parts and 3 parts. You can see here the distribution mainly at the hospital. Hospital mainly at the ED. Okay, this is to show you the POCT device model for PT-INR. Okay, so they will have this device, handheld device, we have strip and the lancets. The prick, because they use capillary sample. As for PT-INR, various POCT-PT analyzers operate with differential analytical principles of clot formation, including optical, electromechanical, and electrochemical clot detection. Sample for testing is capillary blood with a sample volume of less than 10 microliter. Measurement most often reported as INR used for the monitoring of vitamin K antagonist oral anticoagulant therapy. Some INR analyzers are specifically designed for patient use and others are designed specifically for healthcare professionals. The analyzers utilize an enclosed system of disposal test strip or cartridge with an inbuilt quality control test. Why we call it electronic QC. Okay, this is hemoglobin meter. The examples of hemoglobin meter nowadays is more smaller in size. Previously, we have HemoQ, which is quite bulky. Okay, next, viscoelastic testing, VET, including thromboelastography. We call it TEG or thromboelastometry or TEM. Offers near patient rapid global assessment of hemostasis, which is useful in dynamic setting of acute bleeding. Viscoelastic testing evaluates clot initiation, strength, dynamics, and breakdown. Clinical use cases area established in trauma, cardiovascular surgery, and liver transplant area. The tailored approach that VET facilities can reduce transfusion requirements. Okay, this is to show you the device. They can put the samples here, and they have TEG and ROTEM. And okay, the output is optical detection. Okay, results are reported in a live trace with different trace parameters reflecting different contributors to hemostasis. Okay, it should the trace like this, the parameters, and it will they can see immediately the possible cause. Okay, this is for example the bottom one. This trace shows cases with hypercoagulable state. Next, activated clotting time, ACT. Okay, ACT in our setting, KKM also available at Hospital Selayang because they are liver center. The ACT is a bedside test that is used to assess the effectiveness of heparin anticoagulation during cardiac bypass surgery or interventional cardiovascular procedures. A baseline ACT should be obtained on all patients before UFH administration. The ACT is determined by using one of several different protein cascade activators, such as kaolin or salite, and a method of endpoint detection, such as optical or electromagnetic. ACT are obtained every 20 to 30 minutes throughout the case, and heparin is redosed as needed to obtain an ACT level greater than 300 seconds. So the device or the test must be bedside of the patient to ensure they have adequate heparin dose to allow the surgery going on. So these are the examples of device. Next, we move on to quality assurance. A quality assurance is key to the delivery of an accurate and reliable POCT program. It encompasses training, personnel, equipment, appropriateness of testing, pre-analytical, analytical, and post-analytical aspect of POCT from sample collection to recording of the final results in patient's record. The POCT quality assurance framework should include internal quality control, external quality programs, and internal audit schedule, accreditation to the MS ISO 14189-2022 standards, and or MSQH. Document control including standard operating procedure, regular review of the service for continual improvement. In our setting, we can have review in hospital POCT committee annual meeting, as well as in MRM Hematology department. Okay, we move on to internal quality control program. An IQC program should aim to control accuracy within and between the variability, drift, and potential bias. QC should be analyzed at a frequency based on patient analysis activity, and if used daily, should not be any greater than every 24 hours. And we can see the frequency of QC to be done. We were going to see in our national guideline later. Records of lot numbers, target values and results should be fully traceable in electronic or written form. There should be a policy in place to handle IQC failure and contingency plan in event of system failure. Okay, this is a table to show how the frequency of IQC testing are done. It is also according to complexity of the device. Okay, as for low complexity device, a minimum of 1 liquid QC, samples shall be tested each month, meaning in 1 month we run once liquid QC, or as suggested by the manufacturer or based on risk assessment done by the facility. Okay, at one time we have to run 2 levels of QC. Most of the time QC they will have 2 levels, normal and abnormal. We have to run both, but only once for low complexity devices. Okay, this is, the source is from National Policy and Guideline. We give this guideline, but at the same time, they have to assess also the risk assessment need to be done by the facility. Okay, for moderate complexity device, minimum of 2 liquid QC samples should be tested each month. Okay, twice, as suggested by manufacturer or based on risk assessment. Okay, we mentioned low complexity, for example, NPT-INR. Okay, some of the device, they're very confident with their electronic QC. They don't actually suggest the liquid QC, but our national guideline, we must run at least once a month. Okay, but some of the device, manufacturers suggest to run every time you run the test, you have to run. Okay, for example, in IM clinic, most of clinic they run once a week or twice a week. So, for example, twice a week, they only have to run. Twice a week or once a week, run once a month for the device that mentioned they can run 6 monthly, or certain company, they said they don't have to run liquid QC, but our guideline, they must run once a month. Okay, but if manufacturers suggest to run every time they run the test, they have to run according to manufacturer. As higher complexity devices must run daily QC. This is, for example, like FBC. So the how we run daily QC in the lab. The POCT side also, they have to run daily QC because this is higher complexity devices. Okay, next we move on to external quality assessment, external quality program. External quality assessment data complements but does not replace performance obtained in real time from an IQC program. An EQA program provides samples of known but undisclosed analytes concentration at both clinical decision level and levels that reflect the linearity of the device. The EQA report provides users with peer-reviewed assessment by means of numerical or qualitative scoring for device performance relative to other users of the same device. There should be record keeping and a documented system for handling out of consensus. If an EQA program is not available for a device or analyte, alternate options can be explored. For example, interlab exchange program of blinded samples within the trust, or taking a venous and capillary samples simultaneously or for analysis on multiple devices. Testing of the POCT device against the main laboratory method should also be undertaken periodically. Okay, meaning we have to compare with our the standard test in the lab. Okay, as for internal audit, in order to improve the quality of service and ensure the delivery of prompt, reliable results, internal audit should be carried out. It can be planned at least once a year. We can provide checklists of audits to ensure the monitoring is continuous from the lab. For example, can schedule 2 monthly IQC monitoring. The lab personnel go to the POCT site and check their IQC. Now we move on to accreditation. Okay, as for accreditation, previously we have international standard pertaining to POCT, which is ISO 22870. Okay, this is first written in 2003 and reviewed in 2016 to align with MS ISO 14189 2012. Okay, we have MSQH for accreditation, MSQH accreditation, hospital accreditation standard and assessment tools, 6th edition 2021. Okay, we have this Malaysian standard recently published in December 2022, and we adopt as MS also, MS ISO 14189 2022. As for MSQH, we have the criteria for compliance. Where service, okay, in this 15.1.1.9, where service are provided in areas other than in main pathology service, for example, intensive care units, neonatal nurseries or following requirements shall be considered. Responsibility for the operation of those services is clearly defined. Staff are closely supervised and given appropriate instruction. The equipment is properly maintained. So they have the criteria to comply. And this is for ISO 14189 2022, which version 4 released in the 6th December 2022. Okay, one major change is the inclusion of requirements relating to POCT. Let's see. Okay, we can see in this introduction here, this document contains the requirements for POCT and supersedes ISO 22870, which will be withdrawn upon publication of this document. So now we no longer have this ISO 22870. So in MS ISO 14189 2022, we have to apply in the main text whatever related to POCT. Okay, and we have this specific clause for POCT in 6.7.2 regarding agreements with POCT operators. And we have Annex A for as additional requirements for POCT, which consists of four areas. They touch about the general, which is actually mentioned that this one actually specifies the laboratory's responsibility toward organization. And the governance, which is governing body of the organization, shall be ultimately responsible for ensuring the appropriate process are in place to monitor accuracy and quality of POCT. They also touch about quality assurance program. We can see in this topic, the laboratory shall appoint a person with appropriate training and experience to be responsible for POCT quality, which includes review of and conformity with the requirements of this document as related to POCT. And number 4, they touch also about the training program. And next, we move on to national policy and guidelines for POCT. Okay, the second, this is second edition, released in May 2022. Okay, I share here the policy statement in the guideline, policy and guideline. The Ministry of Health Malaysia shall provide fast, safe, effective management and use of POCT devices that are fit for intended purpose in normal situation and during disaster, performed by competent personnel on the correct patient with documented quality results in order to provide high quality patient care through standardized POCT services. POCT service shall be coordinated by the POCT committee at all levels. Okay, these are the POCT committees in MOH. Okay, in MOH, we have medical program and public health program. Under medical program, we have National Committee of Pathology Service, which then the National POCT Committee is under this National Committee of Pathology Service. Under National POCT Committee, we have State POCT Committee, which then also responsible for Hospital POCT Committee and Public Health POCT Committee. Okay, this table actually shows the summary of roles and responsible of POCT Committee. Okay, listed here the POCT activity. We have POCT equipment and device procurement, POCT device user training and competency, POCT quality assurance program, and POCT documentation reports and audits. You can see here the roles of the committee. As for Public Health POCT Committee and Hospital POCT Committee, they are responsible for all the activities. Okay. Yeah, this one I extract from national guideline number 4 for POCT implementation at POCT sites. Okay, we have to consider all this. The topic should be covered for the POCT implementation regarding cost benefit, risk management, health and safety, training, SOP, reporting of results, availability of logbook, POCT service management, quality assurance, budgetary planning, monitoring, and complaints. Okay, finance and cost benefit analysis. All organizations offering POCT to patients must have structures in place that ensure all costs are evaluated. The financial impact is understood. This may take different forms depending on how the POC test or a service is utilized. For instance, an analyzer in emergency department with high throughput will have a different impact on real cost to patient care than a low use hemoglobin INR or glucometer in a clinic. But the impact on patient management outcome may be equitable. Health and safety. All aspects of hospital health and safety policy and the ISO 14892 standard should be met with regards to general health and safety. This assessment should be conducted on new items of equipment before commissioning. A policy for high-risk samples should be considered. Closed valve sampling is recommended where this is a choice, and the use of personal protective equipment should be considered in all testing locations. Reagent must be risk control of substance hazardous to health regulation assessed or registered and filed. As for training, the appointed POCT manager or training and development coordinator shall develop, implement, and maintain an appropriate theoretical and practical training program for all POCT personnel. The content of training program and the knowledge skills level assessment process shall be documented. Retraining intervals and a continuing education program must be established. Okay, as for training, we really need to monitor the POCT site. Okay, most of the time they are running by nurses or MA, which they are very busy with their their clinical tasks. Okay, so the training parts and whatever related to this test sometimes really overlooked. For example, the training records not in place, so we have to closely monitor. And for the POCT coordinator in the hospital committee, they must liaise closely with the POCT site as well as the vendor as well. Standard operating procedure, SOP shall be written and produced in accordance with the standards required by the National Policy and Guideline for POCT or equivalent accreditation agencies. This shall be available to users at the POCT sites. Recording and reporting of results. All patient results, IQC and EQA results shall be recorded. Records shall be traceable based on 2 unique identifiers, date and time of analysis, special results, relevant QC results, and the identity of the POCT operator. Notification and action taken on critical results shall be documented. Record shall include date, time, responsible POCT operator, person notified, and the critical results. All patient results shall be treated as confidential and kept in a secure place. Okay, this recording and documentation also POCT coordinator in the hospital must really look into at the POCT sites. Okay, this is the flow for request for POCT service in the hospital. I mean, on the hospital or in the public health. Okay, we have the flow start with the request for. Okay, by right, all the site, I mean, all the clinical site who want to start the POCT service, they have to come to the POCT committee to ask for the request. Okay, we have the flow here, request for new or change of POCT, submit completed POCT request form to POCT committee and hospital director. Okay, the POCT committee in the hospital or in the public health will see and will evaluate and then will give the approval of POCT request. If not approved, they will inform the requester and they will inform why. And the next, after the approval, it will come with procurement, installation, method verification, training of competency, and quality assurance. Okay, this is the form that they use for request of new POCT or change the POCT. All this provide in national policy and guidelines. Okay, the form consists of the name of a test and device requested, justification, they must have the justification, method procurement, POCT device. Okay, they have to answer all the listed in the form, the location. And this is the evaluation form that used by the POCT committee in the hospital to evaluate. Because as we know that POCT test is most of the time much more expensive than the our test in the lab. Okay, all the POCT committee will look at the list of what we have to evaluate. Okay, including the method evaluation as well. With certain device we have to do, we have to do the technical evaluation or analytical performance verification. Evaluation of POCT activities. Okay, this is actually audit checklist lah. Audit checklist, yeah. Once we implement the POCT program at the center, as I mentioned earlier, as POCT coordinator in the hospital or POCT license officers for your disciplines, we have to monitor. And this is the audit checklist that most of the time we do it at least once a year. In National Policy and Guideline, we have this chapter 3. Okay, so actually chapter 1 we talk about policy, chapter 2 guideline, chapter 3 is national policy. Chapter 3 is POCT in emergency and disaster preparedness, response and recovery. This chapter covers the roles played by the National POCT Committee in assisting POCT management during emergencies and disasters and ensuring compliance with POCT policy and guidelines. And next, we move on to the last topic for this presentation, analytical performance verification. The purpose of an evaluation known as verification process is to confirm, verify that a particular POCT system performs to and meets the manufacturer's stated specifications and to validate the results against a known standard. As a first step, package insert for potential devices or methods, test cartridges should be reviewed for the following information: intended use, methodology, traceability, sample type and volume, analytical measuring range, interferences, limitations, manufacturer's quality claim. Okay, this is what actually the form that I showed you earlier for evaluation. When there is a request, the POCT coordinator or POCT license officer need to evaluate according to this information. Okay, this is actually suggested in one journal. What are the verification? They propose sort of two steps. This is the initial step. Table 1, guidance on initial device verification, which is, for example, the first request. I mean, newly device that this site going to have. So the verification suggested by this journal also according to device complexity. Here they divide to low and moderate and high with one suggestion. For low device complexity, there are criteria to do the verification study. Here they list the precision, comparison, and linearity. As for low complexity, minimal criteria. For precision, we use QC, negative and positive, mean normal and abnormal, once a day for 5 days. Once a day for 5 days. As for optimum, QC, normal and abnormal, in duplicate, each day for 10 days. Okay, this is the optimum one. They give the guidelines. We can follow which one that what we do. As for comparison study, 5 abnormal and 5 normal patient specimen compared to central lab. So this is also what we call correlation study. Okay, optimal one, 10 normal and 10 abnormal patient specimen. Okay, as for moderate and high complexity, minimum within run, 2 levels of QC run, a total of 5 times in one run, or optimum for precision study. Okay, you can see the journal later. I mean, because the table is too long, I cannot actually screenshot all the whole page. Okay, but this is the outline how we going to run this minimum verification study. Most of the time, actually in our practice also, for example, when I run for PT-INR, we do this precision study and comparison study. Okay, here because the PT-INR also is actually fall under low complexity. Here also they don't suggest for linearity. Okay, next is actually table 2 is guidance on ongoing device verification. This is when, for example, at the POCT site, you want to add another device. Okay, so as for low complexity, minimal precision.
Recording in progress.
We don't have to run anymore here. As for moderate and high complexity, there are suggestions, the criteria to minimal or optimal to run the verification study. Okay, we go through a little bit about the verification study. Precision. Measurement of precision is usually expressed numerically as imprecision, SD, standard deviation or coefficient variation. CV. Measurement of precision should include both quality control material and patient samples. Okay, this journal they mention for patient sample as well. But in practice so far, as for PT-INR, I only do for quality control material, using quality control materials. Both intra-assay imprecision within run or inter-assay between run imprecision should be determined. Linearity is used to establish the measuring interval that can be reported for the assay under evaluation. The measuring interval includes all test results between lower and upper limits, which can be reported and used clinically. Method comparison, or also we call it a correlation study. If the device is compared to an approved reference method, the difference between the POCT device and the comparative method measures the trueness of the POCT device. If the comparative method is not a reference method, for example, standard of field method, trueness cannot be claimed. Instead, the bias reported will be biased to comparative method. the appropriate way to determine the method delivers to the correct result is to compare to a reference method. Okay, with that, I thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Zainura.
Apa Dr.
Okay,
Alec?
thank you.
Dr. Alec can
Dr.
continue,
Nick.
yes.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Nick. Okay, thank you, Dr. Zainura, for the full lecture. So I think we have some time for Q&A. Dr. Zainura, is it okay with you?
Yeah.
Okay, any questions from the floor, from the participants? Because we still have time before the next lecture. Ada soalan ke? Kalau ada, kalau segan nak tanya, maybe boleh enter dalam chat box. We'll read it for you.
Okay, I nak share juga because nowadays, okay, macam previously, I give example my experience in HTA. Here in HTA, we only have PT-INR for our POCT analyzer. PT-INR, the usage is quite high, which we have to do sebut harga lah. Okay, previously when we do sebut harga, we do method verification or analytical performance verification for all the device. For example, at that time we have 7 device because it is also supplied for the kit. We do the verification study for all the device. So, you know, the POCT, the test is quite expensive. PT-INR one strip average 10 ringgit. Okay, certain vendor use small workload, even they can up to 13 or 14 ringgit. Okay, at that time, let's say around 10 ringgit. Okay, so at that time, actually, we use quite a number of strips to run for the verification study because many device involved. But the QC itself, actually, we can share. One vial actually can share all the device. For example, at that time, 6 to 7 device. Okay, that's how we do at that time. We do correlation study as well as precision study. Okay, but then now in our KKM setting, especially in Selangor, they prefer to have central contract. Meaning we do the tender for many hospitals. Yeah, so you see, if involve many hospitals, for example, in PT-INR, Serdang is a cardio center. They also have quite a number of device. More than 5 as well. So we have a lot of device, right? I mean, many device. If we have other hospital, so total, for example, we have 30 or 40 device, so many in tender. So in this setting, when we do method verification study, we don't actually do for all the device because it's not like in the laboratory, the price of the test is not that expensive. You can get most of the time less than 3 ringgit or what, right? RM1 lebih ke berapa lah, I mean 2 ringgit. But for POCT device, strip is very expensive. So what we practice now, actually, I also follow how glucometer do. Glucometer actually they practice tender the whole Malaysia. So many glucometer device, more than 100. So we not actually do the method verification study for all the device. We only select the device. According to journal, I find that suggested 10%. But actually in our practice also, we don't do 10% lah. Because we do it during the tender started running. So we do the evaluation study. Because you have to mention in your spec what do you want? I mean, how much they have to allocate because they have to calculate device, all the QC that you get for that study. So they will calculate. And then later they will give you price per strip. So in terms of method verification study, for the device, it can be different from the lab. Lab we definitely will do for every single analyzers and quite extensive verification study. But in POCT, mainly we use the precision. We have to do the precision study, but not for the device. We have to sample. Suggestion in the journal 10%, but in our practice also we're not up to that level. I mean, this one actually POCT it's quite so many things to establish in our KKM actually in our setting. For example, in general suggested that we have to do method comparison with the lab periodically. We don't do yet. I mean, we have to proceed with that level. I mean, once we settle, usually we just we leave it to them to run, and any issues they will liaise with the vendor, and we will discuss. But yeah, we have to also follow that recommendation that we have to do that method verification, the comparison study with the lab periodically, as what we practice in the lab, right? We do correlation periodically, regularly between the analysis. Boleh faham ke I explain?
Boleh. Assalamualaikum, Dr. Zainura.
Waalaikumsalam.
If I can ask for more clarification.
Uh-uh.
First and foremost, thank you so much for the very detailed information regarding POCT, and this because this POCT jawatan kuasa is pretty new to our fraternity, and yet you have come up with so detailed guideline. Okay. Tahniah kepada jawatan kuasa. So I need few clarification here. You mentioned that for state tender, when you have so many devices, it is acceptable to only do verification on some percentage, kan? About 10. According to the journal, you say about 10% of the devices. So for this method, if you don't do a verification on that particular device, is it still applicable to run QC on monthly basis? Kejap. Ada background kejap. Sorry. Kan in the guideline it says for low, dia panggil apa dah, the kategori low complexity tu kan, you only run QC once a month kan, sedangkan the device is not being verified. So is it acceptable? Number one. Okay, number two, in the guideline and the journal you mentioned, the comparison study should be done periodically, kan? Do they mention the frequency in the journal, kan? Whether it's once a year, like for our analyzer, kan? Our main analyzer in the lab we do once a year. It was mentioned in our ISO to do the comparison at least once a year. But what about for the POCT devices? Yeah, I think that's about it.
Right. Thank
Thank you.
Okay, as for number one, yeah, we have to do that. For example, because my experience more to PT-INR, we also do the risk assessment. Okay, previously, as I mentioned earlier, in our sebut harga, we have earlier before this national policy and guideline recent edition published. Before that, the guideline for the POCT IQC is running every time we run the test. So at that time, actually, earlier we do in HTA, because we have twice a week clinic for NR, but we run weekly. The IQC we run weekly. So we have the record 2 years within actually 1 year 1 year plus, that we don't have issues with IQC. So with that part of risk assessment, and because it is also low complexity, and we proceed with that monthly IQC assessment. But that's why we have to closely monitor with the POCT sites, their performance of IQC. And for number two, Number 2 tadi apa Dr. Nick? Lupa. Number 1
periodic
yang
comparison.
periodicity.
Was it mentioned?
Dalam
The
journal
frequency?
they don't mention, but actually, as far as I know, for laboratory tests also, earlier one some practice once a year, isn't it? But actually, better we do it quite regular, for example, monthly or 2 monthly using the blood sample, we correlate. So as for POCT device also, I think they don't mention, so we can decide if yearly is quite too long to see the correlation, because what I understood, the comparison study, you don't have to use so many samples, but it's more regular, more often, rather than once a year you do it quite many samples, is it? That's you mean, Dr. Nick? But
Yes, it makes sense. But in the journal that you shared, the guideline, kan, you only need about 5 to 10 samples, kan? Okay. Kan? For the verification, kan?
Yes,
Okay.
maybe,
So
but
maksudnya
regular.
is feasible, kan? Walaupun you don't do the
Yes.
verification in the beginning, but along the way, you should do periodic comparison. That makes sense. Okay. Tak apa, so I pass to Dr. Alia because I have to leave for a meeting. Thank you so much, Dr. Zainura.
Thank you. Welcome.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Zainal, for the detailed explanation regarding POCT. I think if any burning question, will take the answer later lah kot kan, Dr. Sebab
Alright.
running out of time. Okay,
Uh,
thank you again once again to Dr. Zainura.
Thanks.
Okay. Okay, for our next lecture, let me briefly introduce for our next speaker, Dr. Suzana Zainul. She is a hematopathologist from Hospital Tuanku Azizah, Kuala Lumpur, and also head of unit of hematology. So she is specialized in hemostasis and thrombosis. So let's welcome